Archetype Entertainment has already introduced the companions at the heart of Exodus: Tom Vargas, Alicia Rue, Phaedra Nath, Solomon, and of course, Salt, the awakened octopus, who appears to have concluded that humanity may be useful after all. But I do not think we have seen the complete combat roster, and this is no longer based only on silhouettes, hopeful speculation, or the understandable desire to bring a giant talking wolf into battle. The official Exodus website is already hiding multiple companions in plain sight. Developers have said they are companions designed around playstyles we have barely seen represented, and Hulten, the enormous awakened wolf beside you, has been given far too much narrative weight to dismiss as background decoration. None of this confirms that Hulten or any other unrevealed character will become a permanent combat companion, but it does suggest that the companions currently being marketed may not tell the entire story. So, what has Archetype actually revealed? What is it still hiding? And could Exodus be preparing for more allies for the battlefield than we have been led to expect? The roster we know. On the official Exodus website, Archetype divides its companions into two clear categories: combat companions and story companions. The publicly identified combat group currently includes Tom Vargas, Alicia Rue, Salt, Phaedra Nath, and Solomon. They already cover a broad range of personalities and battlefield roles. Tom is an experienced former traveler and salvager. Ellie is an aggressive mercenary and weapon specialist who appears designed for players who prefer direct solutions applied at considerable velocity. Salt is a sniper, evasive fighter and smokescreen specialist operating through a combat mech. Phaedra uses a swarm of autonomous drones that can help create combat combinations with June. And Solomon remains partially concealed. We know his name and appearance, but his official biography is still redacted. Even inside the known combat roster, Archetype is still keeping secret. But the story companions section goes considerably further. CC Orland has been revealed. Emrys and Hulten have names, but redacted biographies. And beyond them are three companions whose names, histories, and identities remain completely hidden. So the broad question has already been answered. There are more companions. The real question is whether every unrevealed character belongs entirely outside of combat, or whether some of those hidden figures can join you when the shooting starts. The word companion is doing a lot of work. This distinction matters because companion can mean several different things in an RPG. A permanent squad mate, a character who travels with you but never fights. A temporary ally who becomes playable during one mission. A conditional recruit available only after a particular decision. Or someone who joins much later than the characters used in the game's early marketing. Archetype's website gives us formal categories, but those categories may not describe every possible role a character can occupy across a large story. A story companion could remain entirely narrative, but that does not automatically prevent one from entering combat temporarily. And temporary companions would make particular sense in Exodus. This is a game built around journeys that can change worlds, relationships, and entire civilizations. June may return from an exodus decades or centuries after leaving. Allies can grow older. Political circumstances can transform. Loyalties can shift. Someone who fights beside June during one period of the story may no longer occupy the same role when June returns. A changing roster would not merely provide variety, it could reinforce the central cost of time dilation. The developer clues. Archetype has also described its companion design in a way that raises questions about the visible roster. Game director Chris King explained that the team creates companions and combat kits for different playstyles. His example was stealth. According to King, Exodus contains a couple of companions built specifically around stealth gameplay, complete with strengths and trade-offs intended to affect how players construct their party. That wording is worth noticing. Not one stealth-oriented companion, a couple. Perhaps the existing roster accounts for them, and Archetype simply has not explained every kit in detail. That is entirely possible, but with Solomon's role still redacted and multiple companion identities still concealed, it is also possible that the mechanical roster extends beyond the characters we currently understand. Games Radar's recent companion coverage stated directly that Exodus has not yet revealed all of its companions, and in a community account of a Discord Q&A, Chad Robertson was reportedly asked about the roster and said that players had not been shown all of them. That second claim needs caution, because we do not have the original exchange or its exact wording, but it agrees with what the official website is already showing us. Archetype is not presenting an open book, it is presenting selected pages. Houston. And then there is Houston. Houston is officially categorized as a story companion. His biography remains redacted, but the footage we have seen does not frame him as a random animal placed near June to make a science fiction landscape look more interesting. Houston appears embedded in June's life. We see them sharing ordinary domestic space. We see Houston beside June during quieter moments and not merely during spectacle. And in one of the strongest images released so far, June and Houston sit together overlooking a frozen, devastated landscape. There is grief in that composition, history, familiarity. Houston is not behaving like equipment, he's being presented as family. The official description of the Awakened says that wolves and other intelligent animals can become allies, friends, and sometimes family. It also says their skills and loyalty may turn the tide of battle. That language describes the Awakened broadly. It does not promise that Houston will become a controllable fighter, but Archetype has deliberately placed an enormous intelligent wolf beside its protagonist and giving that wolf a named position within the companion roster. Naturally, people are going to ask whether he can fight. And honestly, look at him. If Houston enters a battle, subtlety has already left the building. There are several possibilities. Houston may remain with June primarily as an emotional and narrative companion. He may defend June during scripted moments without joining the selectable squad. He may become temporarily playable during the opening or another major sequence, or his combat role may be conditional, dependent on the story, June's choices, or events that Archetype has no intention of spoiling before release. At this point, each remains speculation, but story companion is not the same thing as irrelevant to combat. The Mass Effect Precedent. The creative lineage behind Exodus makes that possibility more believable. Mass Effect never used only one model for companion characters. Kazumi and Zaid became permanent recruitable squad mates through DLC in Mass Effect 2. Javik joined Mass Effect 3 through From the Ashes. Other characters became temporary combat companions for specific storylines, including Liara in Lair of the Shadow Broker and Arya and Nyreen during Omega. These examples do not prove that Exodus will follow the same structure, nor should we assume that every design decision made by Bioware will be repeated by Archetype. But Drew Karpyshyn has openly discussed drawing from lessons learned through earlier Bioware games while trying to push companion design forward. That history gives the team a well-established vocabulary. Permanent companions, temporary companions, late arrivals, characters whose adaptability depends on where you are in the story, and characters whose importance cannot be understood from the first marketing lineup alone. Exodus has another advantage: time dilation. time dilation make those changing relationships part of the world's central machinery. A companion could join June for a mission, disappear into the years left behind, and return as someone profoundly changed. A temporary recruit would not have to feel like cut contact or a lesser member of the cast. In this universe, impermanence can be the point. The argument against the theory. There is, however, a simpler explanation. The 5 characters under the combat companion category may be the complete permanent combat roster. Solomon may account for one of the stealth-focused kits, while another known companion accounts for the second. The redacted story companions may never become directly playable, and Houston's production value may exist because he matters emotionally, not because Archetype intends to turn him into a combat system. That would still be worthwhile. A character does not need an ability wheel to matter. In fact, forcing every meaningful relationship into the active squad could make the world feel smaller. Exodus needs people who live beyond June's immediate tactical needs. Houston may be one of them. The evidence supports hidden companions. It does not yet confirm hidden permanent squadrons. Verdict. But I would be surprised if the 5 currently identified combat companions described every ally who will ever fight beside June. The official roster is visibly complete. At least one known combat companion remains partially redacted. Several story companions remain hidden entirely. The developers are discussing specialized companion kits in broader terms than the currently explained roster can easily account for. And the game comes from creators with a long history of using permanent, temporary, conditional, and later introduced companions. My current judgment is that the 5 revealed combat companions may represent the core permanent roster, one that could still be expanded later. But even before any later expansion, Exodus is likely to contain additional characters who fight beside June temporarily, conditionally, or much later in the story. Houston is the clearest current candidate, not because his combat role has been confirmed, but because Archetype has already made him feel too important to ignore. The full story roster is hidden in plain sight. What remains uncertain is how many of those shadows will eventually step onto the battlefield beside us. Archetype may have shown us the companions it wants us to recognize. That does not necessarily mean it has shown us everyone we will be able to meet, recruit, lose, or bring home. The signal continues. See you among the stars.